we are going to talk about art criticism. For your opener, I want you to copy the term and define it in your sketchbook. Appropriation. In art, appropriation is the use of pre-existing objects or images with little or no transformation applied to them. So copy this question in your sketchbook and answer it using your own opinion. Is this more like plagiarism or parody? If you do not know the definition of the terms plagiarism and parody, now is the time for you to do a little bit of independent research. So look up the words plagiarism and parody, and you can also look up the word appropriation if you need a little bit more in-depth explanation, and then answer the question in your sketchbook, telling me why you made the choice that you did. Welcome back. We're going to talk about an art critic today. So what do you think of when you think of an art critic? Do you think of someone who is mean and finds everything they can wrong with an artwork? Think about the movie Ratatouille. Think about the character that's on the screen. He was the stereotype of an art critic, even though he was a food critic. So in any field, you're going to have people whose job is to criticize the product or the artwork and then state their opinion. Typically, someone is an art critic because their opinion is respected, but hopefully you have an art critic who is not this stereotype and who is not negative all the time. We're going to talk about what an art critic actually is. And the truth is that anyone can be an art critic. Art criticism is the process of evaluating artworks. The process does not have to be negative. In fact, the process should be instructive. In art criticism, you follow 4 steps. In art criticism, you follow 4 steps to make a judgment about an artwork's success. In this class, you will be an art critic. Why do we do art criticism? Art criticism allows you to judge an artwork more effectively. It also allows you to be objective. This allows you to make a judgment that is based on factual information instead of simply opinion. Making judgments based on fact instead of opinion is a much stronger and thorough way of looking at artwork. It's also a better way to make decisions in other areas of your life, so learning how to critique art is a valuable life skill. It also allows you to understand how you are being graded. If you can do art criticism for famous works of art, then you also will understand how your teacher is looking at your works of art that you create in this class. When will you use art criticism? Art criticism is appropriate to use whenever you are asked to judge an artwork. With a few changes, it could also be used to judge music, literature, drama, and other forms of art. The process prepares you for making other judgments, such as decisions about major purchases, cars, homes, home decoration. The more you practice making an educated and informed judgment, the easier it will be for you to make important decisions. There are 4 steps to art criticism. Step 1 is describing. Step 2 is analyzing. Step 3 is interpreting. And step 4 is judging. Take a moment to pause the video here and write out the 4 steps of art criticism, pretty much exactly how they are on the slide. Make sure that you leave space for you to write an explanation for each one of the 4 steps. Step 1 is describing. Let's talk about that in some more detail. In the first step, you give a description of the artwork. You explain things like the size, the medium, and the process used to make the artwork. Usually this is found in the credit line or the caption under the artwork. If you cannot find this information in a textbook, then you need to do a little bit of independent internet research. The next thing you will describe is the subject or the objects in the artwork. Tell what you can see. Even if all you can see is brushstrokes, you need to tell what you see. Next, you need to describe at least 3 of the elements of art and how the artist used them in the artwork. Think of things like line, shape, color, form, value, texture, and space. Let's move on to step 2 and explain that a little bit further. In step 2, you're going to explain how the artist organized the artwork or what their composition was. The more you learn about composition, the better you'll be able to analyze the artwork. You can also talk about the elements of art some more here as well. You can also talk about the principles of design. Be sure to explain how the artist used the principles of design with the elements of art. You can always find 2 to 3 to even 4 principles of design in any famous work of art. The next step is interpreting. In this step, you would explain the mood or meaning of the artwork. This is where you would bring in some historical context. When was the artwork created, and what do you think the artist's message was? Also explain your personal connections to the work of art and how it made you feel. Make sure that you explain and justify your answer. Give me more than the artwork looks sad. That is an elementary level response, and you are in high school. I want you to explain why the artwork looks sad and maybe use better vocabulary, maybe morose, or maybe depressing are better words to use other than sad. And then be able to tell me things about the color or the facial expression or the overall mood of the piece and how the artist created that mood that makes you feel like it is morose or depressing. The final step that we need to explain is the judging step. In the final step, you make a judgment of whether or not the artwork is successful. You base it on one of the 3 aesthetic views. You can view it on the subject, and that would be good for realistic art. So if the artwork was trying to be realistic, did they successfully achieve that realism? If the artwork is not realistic, then it might be better to focus on the content. This is deciding whether the artwork is successful if it creates a strong mood or feeling like we talked about in step 3. If you feel like the artwork is neither realistic or creating a strong mood or feeling, then look at the design or composition. Then you can decide whether or not the artwork is successful based on the elements of art and principles of design that they used and how they created a composition. This is where you would also think about how the eye moved throughout the piece when you first saw it. After that, you need to pick one of those views and justify your answer on whether or not the artist was successful. This is where you get to bring a value judgment and your personal opinion to the critique of the artwork. This is where you can decide that you dislike an artwork, but that maybe it is still an effective work of art. Maybe you would not personally hang it in your home or your own imaginary art gallery, but it is still worth the acclaim or the money that is being paid for it. Make your opinion and justify your answer. Remember, there are no wrong answers in this section of the art criticism as long as you have a reason for your answer. We are going to try to critique a piece of artwork. This is much better in a classroom setting where you can hear your peers and your teacher's feedback, but we will do this over the computer instead. So what I want you to do is go to the photo album for this work of art, and I want you to go through the 4 steps of art criticism. I will talk about it a little bit in this video, but after this video is over, go to that photo album and discuss the work of art. I'm going to move my camera so that you can see the credit line. Read the name of the artist, the title, the year that it was created, the medium, the size, and where the artwork is currently. This is the information that can be found for almost any work of art. And that information is already going to give you a little bit of context about the artwork. After you have read the credit line and know a little bit more about the piece, now it's time to describe the artwork. What do you see? After you have described the artwork, you will analyze the artwork. What do you feel like the artist achieved? Why did they make the choices that they did in the subject matter or design or composition or medium or craftsmanship? Next, I want you to interpret the artwork. Think about the meaning. Think about the historical context. Think about the choices of subject matter and what they might symbolize. How does the artwork make you feel? What principles of design did the artist use? How did they use them? Did they combine those principles of design with the elements of art? Discuss all of that in the discussion photo album in Schoology. After you have done that, I want you to form your judgment or opinion of the artwork. This is where you get to make a value judgment about the work. Is it effective? Is it successful? Why or why not? Do you like the artwork? What do you like about the artwork? What do you not like about the artwork? What would you change about the artwork if you were the artist? Is it good? Do you love it or do you hate it? It is okay to have those thoughts and opinions if you have described, analyzed, and interpreted the artwork first. Your next assignment is to do the token response assignment. For your turn, you will have 8 paintings to choose from. For each of these 8 paintings, you will have a credit line with as much information as I can provide for you. On the token response sheet, I want you to pick one painting for each of the categories, and I will explain what the categories are in just a second. You may use each painting only once. So if you feel like the painting fits in more than one category, you have to decide which category it fits in more. You have to make each painting fit in at least one category. So maybe start with the painting that you like the least and put it in that category first, and then work backwards to the ones that you feel like could fit in multiple categories. Now remember, for this portion of the process, there is not really a right or wrong answer as long as you can justify your response. It is your opinion. The next thing I want you to do is make sure that you put all the information in the worksheet that it asks for. So if it asks for the artist, the title, and the medium, you need to make sure that you include all of that information where it asks for it. It also will ask for a justification, but it provides the beginning of a sentence stem. I want you to have good, thoughtful responses there, not one-word responses like, it's cool. I guess that's a 2-word response, but that is not a high school level response. So make sure that what you write is thoughtful and well written. Now let's explain the 8 categories that are on the worksheet. The first category that I want to explain is money. For this category, you're going to pick the painting that you believe is worth the most money. I don't want you to actually look it up and figure out which one is worth the most money. I want you to make some guesses based on what you know about art. The next category is craftsmanship. So for this one, you're going to pick the work of art that you felt. For craftsmanship, you're going to pick the work of art that you felt was done the most neatly and took a lot of skill on the part of the artist. The next category is originality. And for this category, I want you to pick the painting that you felt like was the most original in its idea or in its composition or in its execution. Which one is different from the other ones? The next category is judgment. For judgment, this is the one that is getting the blue ribbon, the painting that you feel like is the best work of art overall. It might not be your favorite, it just is the best. The next category is positive preference, and that is your favorite. So maybe it might not be the best work of art, but it is the one that you like the most, maybe because you have a personal association with the subject matter. Put that artwork in the positive preference category. The next category is the negative preference category. So this is a work of art that you personally do not like. The next category is the others preference category. So this is similar to the negative preference, but this is one where a lot of other people seem to like the artwork, but it's not your favorite. Put that in the others preference category. The last category is the time spent. So which painting do you feel like took the most amount of time to make? And I don't want you to look this information up. I want you to make that decision based on educated guesses, based on the way that the painting looks and what you know about art. Thank you so much for listening. Now you know everything about the 4 steps of art criticism. Go ahead and get to work.